Close your eyes for a moment and picture London in the late 1800s. The streets are crowded, the air heavy with smoke from factories, and children run barefoot through alleys. Among them, on April 16, 1889, a baby boy enters the world. His name is Charles Spencer Chaplin, but the world will one day know him simply as Charlie Chaplin. Charlie is born into a family of performers. His father, Charles Chaplin Sr., is a singer and actor, but his weakness is alcohol. He drinks himself into oblivion and abandons the family while Charlie is still small. His mother, Hannah Chaplin, is a talented singer and actress. She tries desperately to provide for Charlie and his half-brother Sidney, but poverty clings to them like a shadow. Sometimes there is no food at all. Sometimes Hannah pretends to eat so her children can have the little that is left. Their home is not stable. They move from one shabby room to another, always fearing eviction. Yet through it all, little Charlie finds moments to smile. Children, even in hardship, know how to imagine happiness. Chapter 2, A Mother's Song. At child's first stage, Hannah performs in theaters, singing to earn a few pennies. Charlie watches from the wings, mesmerized. He dreams of standing before an audience, but one night, tragedy strikes. Hannah loses her voice mid-performance. The crowd grows restless, angry. They shout and throw things, demanding she leave the stage. Then something remarkable happens. 5-year-old Charlie steps forward. He sings. He dances. He makes faces that send the crowd into laughter. The audience cheers. For the first time, Charlie feels the electricity of performance, the power to make people forget their troubles, even for a moment. In that instant, something sparks inside him. This is what I was born to do. Chapter 3, Loss and Loneliness, but Life Remains Cruel. Hannah's mental health deteriorates. Her mind slips away, and she is eventually sent to a mental hospital. Charlie watches as doctors take her. He cries, powerless. His father is gone. His mother is gone. He and Sidney are left alone. The boys are sent to workhouses, cold, harsh institutions where the poor labor for food and shelter. Charlie is only 7. He is separated from Sidney, forced into loneliness. At night he lies awake, shivering, wondering if life will ever be kind. Still, inside him burns a stubborn dream, a dream to perform, to create, to bring joy to others. It becomes his anchor. Chapter 4, First Steps Toward the Spotlight to Survive. Charlie takes odd jobs, washing dishes, delivering newspapers, working as a toy maker. But his heart is never in these tasks. His heart belongs on the stage. He begins performing with street entertainers, copying their tricks, learning timing, studying every movement. At first, people ignore him, but he keeps practicing. He watches audiences closely, learning what makes them laugh, what makes them cry. Slowly, people begin to notice. The small boy with big eyes and quick feet can make them smile. At 14, Charlie joins a troupe called the 8 Lancashire Lads. It is his first big break. He works harder than anyone else, memorizing every routine, polishing every movement. His talent shines. A theater director notices him and declares, "This boy is special." Soon at 16, he lands his first major role in a play called Sherlock Holmes. The boy who once scavenged for food is now performing in real theaters before real audiences. Chapter 5, Crossing the Ocean. In 1910, Charlie receives an opportunity that changes everything. He is invited to tour America with Fred Karno's comedy troupe. America, the land of dreams. Charlie boards a ship and sails across the Atlantic, his heart filled with hope. When he arrives, the world feels bigger, louder, faster. And then Hollywood, the new capital of cinema. Charlie knows at once, this is where I belong. By 1913, Keystone Studios offers him a small role in a silent film. It is nothing grand, but Charlie sees potential. He wants to create a character unlike any other. He sketches an image in his mind: baggy pants, a tight coat, oversized shoes, a bowler hat, a cane, and a tiny mustache. And, of course, the famous walk. Thus, the tramp is born. Chapter 6. The Tramp Conquers the World. At first, audiences are puzzled by the odd little man. But then, Charlie moves. He stumbles, twirls, and grins. He makes them laugh without a word. He makes them cry with a single look. The world falls in love. By 1917, Charlie Chaplin is not just famous. He is a global phenomenon. Crowds line up for hours to see his films. His face appears on posters, newspapers, and magazines. In every country, in every language, people know the Tramp. But behind the laughter lies the memory of a boy who once went to bed hungry. He never forgets the pain of poverty. He never forgets his mother's love or her illness, and he never stops working because to him, performance is survival. Chapter 7. Master of his own destiny. Hollywood in the 1910s is controlled by studios. They dictate scripts, roles, and contracts. But Charlie refuses to be owned. In 1918, he builds Chaplin Studios, his own kingdom. Here he writes, directs, acts, and even composes music. Every detail is his. Then, in 1921, he releases The Kid. It is not just a comedy, it is his story. A poor man cares for an abandoned boy. Together they laugh, struggle, and survive. The film is funny, yes, but it is also heartbreaking. Audiences weep. Critics praise it. The world embraces it. Charlie realizes movies can be more than entertainment. They can heal. They can inspire. They can change the world. Chapter 8. Richest actor, humblest memory. By the 1920s, Charlie is earning over $1 million per film. He is the richest actor in the world, yet he still remembers the taste of hunger. He still remembers nights on the streets. He still remembers Hannah, alone in the asylum. Every frame of his films is crafted with care. He will spend months, even years, perfecting a single project. To him, art is sacred. Laughter is sacred. Chapter 9. The silent artist in a talking world. Then comes the late 1920s. Sound arrives in cinema. Talking pictures take over. Silent films are declared dead. Everyone tells Charlie to adapt, but he refuses. He believes emotions are stronger than words. In 1931, he proves the world wrong with City Lights. Without dialogue, the film tells a story of love, sacrifice, and kindness. The final scene, where the tramp gazes at a blind girl, becomes one of the most moving moments in film history. Audiences sob. Critics call it a masterpiece. Charlie has shown that silence can speak louder than words. Chapter 10. Laughter against tyranny. The 1930s bring darker clouds. Adolf Hitler rises in Germany, spreading fear and hate. Charlie notices something chilling. Hitler has the same mustache as the tramp. Instead of shrinking, Charlie seizes the moment. In 1940, he releases The Great Dictator. It is his first talking film, and is fearless. The final speech, pleading for humanity, kindness, and peace, becomes one of the most powerful speeches in cinema history. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. The world listens. Once again, Chaplin uses art not just to entertain, but to fight for justice. Chapter 11. Exile from Hollywood, but not everyone approves. Hollywood grows uneasy with his independence and political voice. Enemies spread lies. Accusations pile up. In 1952, the United States government bars him from returning. Charlie is exiled from the country where he built his empire. Heartbroken, he settles in Switzerland with his wife, Una O'Neill, the love of his life. Together they raise 8 children. At last, Charlie finds peace in family. He writes, he reads, he gardens. The boy who once begged for food now watches his children play in safety. Chapter 12. A return in triumph. For 20 years, Hollywood turns its back. But in 1972, it repents. Charlie is invited to the Academy Awards. Frail and elderly, he returns. As he steps onto the stage, the audience rises. The applause lasts 12 full minutes, the longest ovation in Oscar history. Tears fill his eyes. After decades of exile and pain, he is home again, if only for a moment. Chapter 13. The final years. Charlie spends his last years in Switzerland, surrounded by family. He writes memoirs, reflects on his journey, and revisits his films. Sometimes he laughs at his younger self tumbling across the screen. Sometimes he grows quiet, remembering hunger and heartbreak. On December 25, 1977, at the age of 88, Charlie Chaplin passes away in his sleep. The world mourns. Headlines everywhere declare the greatest comedian of all time is gone. Yet his spirit lingers, for every laugh in every theater carries his touch. But even in death, his story takes a bizarre twist. Months after his burial, thieves steal his body, demanding ransom. His wife, Una, refuses. She says Charlie would have laughed at this. Eventually, the body is recovered and reburied in a reinforced grave. Not even grave robbers can silence his legend. Chapter 14. Lessons from a Tramp. What does Charlie Chaplin's life teach us? That poverty need not define us. That laughter can heal wounds deeper than sorrow. That independence is worth sacrifice. That even in silence, a story can roar across the world. He once said, "A day without laughter is a day wasted." And through his films, he gave the world countless days of laughter. From a homeless boy in London to the most beloved comedian in history, Chaplin's journey proves that dreams are stronger than despair, and that even the smallest figure in oversized shoes can leave the biggest footprints on the stage of history.